go. I am whole, perfect, and complete. So that meditation I shared with you, that affirmative prayer, is something that I work with on a daily basis. And one must realize that when I'm talking health here, we all know physically, mentally, and emotionally what we really need to do. I think we know that. I want to talk about it at a different level. I want to talk about spiritual healing. Because all physical healing, whether it be mental, emotional, or the physical body, all starts first with a healing at a spiritual level. And one of the things I guess I maybe should do this one day, or could do this one day, is the history of the New Thought movement in North America, but in particular this idea of spiritual mind healing. Really, how it got going here, and by the way, keep in mind it's nothing new. Jesus was doing this stuff way back then, so it's not new. But how it got started in North America, briefly, I'll take a few minutes to tell you this. There was a guy by the name of Anton Mesmer who developed a process during the Crimean War, putting people into trances and being able to go in and do amputations without the person even being aware that it was being done. So many of you may have heard of the term mesmerism. Common knowledge, they call it clinical hypnosis, but that's where it started. And the gentleman on the tour of that was in North America, and in Maine, a guy by the name of Phineas Parker Quimby went and saw this and became very interested. And he was the guy that really got things going. And I'm just going to tell you about a few of his clients that loved the work that he did and took it to a different level. So some of you may have heard of Nona Brooks and Melinda Kramer. Maybe not, but some of you may have heard of divine science. For those of you who didn't know that before, this was Unity at Calgary, this was a divine science church. Jim Lockley was a minister. Okay, so it's a new thought movement, one maybe you didn't know of, but they went in the presence of Quimby and experienced a healing. And then there was another lady that was having problems and went to Quimby because she heard of him and really took off with it. And her name was Mary Baker Eddy, and she founded Christian Science. And then there was another lady that come to him, her husband and him, and she was dealing with tuberculosis. And Quimby worked with her, and she experienced a healing, and they were so taken by it, they went on to develop a movement known as Unity. That was Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. So basically, and then of course, the Center for Spiritual Living, come a titch later with Ernest Holmes, dealing with Mary Baker Eddy, Unity, and all that. That's where he learned it and developed the Centers for Spiritual Living, which was known as religious science in the day. So all of these great works that we've got in this New Thought movement started in this continent from that. And of course those other people were influenced by other great teachers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Emma Curtis Hopkins here in North America, and a lot of other ones that we had here, as well as what Unity did was trace. What I like about Unity is they traced all this new stuff back to the old stuff in the Bible and made the Bible more real, in my opinion. Okay? And so the basic premise of spiritual mind healing is, and I'm going to talk a little bit about being a practitioner in my experience. However, what it has to do is simply with the practitioner, or as Jesus was doing it, all that he did was know the truth and hold that vision, hold that word of being whole, perfect, and complete. And whether it worked for the people or not wasn't because of what Jesus did. He did the truth. It was their believability of what he said. And because he said, it is done unto you as you believe. Okay? So if you believed it didn't work for you because that's what you believed. And keep in mind, folks, be really careful when you're dealing with this, because you always get to be right. So work with what you want to be right about. Okay, and be patient, because it'll come. If you just start doing the other way, you get to be right about that, but who wants to? And so one of the most profound examples of this absent healing, or this work, happened in the book of Matthew, chapter 8. And there was a Roman centurion whose household slave he really loved. And he went to Jesus because he was sick. And he was dying. And Jesus said, hey, come on, let's go. We'll go to your house. Fix him right up. Well, sort of, Jesus. and the Roman guy says, oh, no, I'd like to have you there, but I got a problem. The problem is I'm a high-ranking official in the army, and everybody doesn't like you in that area, and it would be really tough for me to come there, but I really do love this man and want him healed. And Jesus was so taken back by him that he believed and he cared so much, he said to him, go thy way, and thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the same hour. Okay? Now, you hear that story and you look at it and you can say, well, that's bizarre. That doesn't happen like that. Wrong. Okay? Wrong. And I'm not asking you to accept what I'm saying. Prove it. Okay? What I love about this teaching is you don't have to accept what anybody tells you. You work with it and you can prove it. Case closed, just like that. And so when I was a practitioner in training, and a practitioner really is an individual that has a desire to understand the truth about how the healing principle works within us and through us, and to be one that can facilitate that type of a healing. And keep in mind, if you're going to work in this stuff, you have to get it out of your head. You ain't going to do the healing. You don't do nothing. Okay? Your job isn't got nothing to do with that. Your job is to hold the truth of the perfect condition of that person and that experience they desire to have, and to hold it and to visualize it, to support it, and to believe it unconditionally 100%. That's your job. Nothing else. Whether it works or not is not relevant, and how it works is not relevant. That's not your job. Okay? When you plant seeds, you don't tell God how to grow them. You keep it right. Okay? So keep in mind, it works the same way here. You stay out of that. That's none of your business. Because you'll never be able to figure out how some of that stuff works. Because I haven't been. I'm not trying to. I tried for years to figure out. Now I just give it up. I just did it for a game to see if I could ever be right. Never been right once. But I had a lot of work. And I remember the one I had, one client, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell a few stories, but this was when I was a practitioner in training. And I had just gone through a little bit of an ego-crushing, devastating experience. Because we had to do cases and ask for people to write the results. And they believed it was this, because that's part of how you get your practitioner license. So my first three clients were all in a short period of time, and they were all men that had terminal cancer. So I'm a young, keen practitioner. I got going on this right away. And damn, all three of them died. I was crushed. Because you see, first thing is I took responsibility for their healing. You don't do that because you're ineffective and you destroy the consciousness you built. Never take responsibility. It's not yours. Your job is to know the truth. And it was really hard for me because my ego was so strong. Well, anybody like that? And geez, and of course my colleagues were giving me a hard time. Oh, get Doug to do treatment for you. It'll be solved. You're going to die. But that was one of the most intense lessons as a practitioner that I ever learned, okay, that sometimes dying is the healing. So, over the years, whenever as I grew into this, the way I handle it now, not right off the bat, but when I deal with people that are terminal, what I do is I always ask the person that's asking me the treatment for the person, if they don't ask me themselves, I always say, are we doing a treatment for a physical healing or a spiritual healing so that they make the smooth transition to the other side? Or are we doing the generalized treatment and turning it over to spirit and letting spirit decide? Okay? So otherwise we're saying, hey, spirit, I'm ready to go. Hey, spirit, not ready to go. Hey, spirit, we're going to turn it over. But that doesn't mean the person that's in the position. That means all the people involved. Because they can't do any attachments. Because that's what we have, but we don't want the person to go, so we attach ourselves to them and they end up suffering. So I learned through that, very terrible experience for me, that sometimes death is the healing. And it's not my responsibility. And so all the time if I get called before I step into the room, I always do the prayer like that I do before I go in, and people go to me invariably, oh, you just missed them. They just passed and they went peacefully. Well, I know. I did the work out there. And believe me, that's happened. And if it was just a few times, okay, but it's been dozens of times I've actually had that experience where one can do that. And I just actually went through it with a friend of mine and his wife and family, and we decided to do the treatment that they wanted the treatment to let the spirit decide, and we did that, and within a short period of time, he had his recovery, he did what he needed to do, and then shortly after that, he passed peacefully. Okay? So you never know. Sometimes, oh, look, he's there. Oh, what a miracle. But that's because he's got to come back to finalize. So you can't get any attachment to any outcomes when you're doing this work. Okay? And another one about I had in that area that was very profound for me is I had this little old Scottish lady come to me. She was a sweetheart, Mary. And I'll never forget it because she had been over visiting and got in a car accident and got severely injured and had all kinds of pains in her body that they couldn't do anything with. She went to all kinds of doctors, everything, all kinds of drugs, nothing worked. So she'd been in pain about 3.5 years. And so she decided, and her daughter, I happened to meet her daughter, I'd done some work with her too, and brought her in, and I sat there and I talked to her, just kind of getting an idea about where she was coming from, and I said, okay, and I explained the spiritual mind treatment or prayer that system that I used and how it goes and what her job was. Your job is to believe and to accept these words as though they're your own. And of course, the best part about doing that, it's hard for you and I to do it, but when you're desperate and everything else has failed and you've been told you're going to have to live with it, then you reach out at a different level. And my job was first to build that connection with her and help her accept the possibility of that outcome. And I'll be darned, and I haven't had it quite like this ever since, but this one, I did the work and I ended the treatment, and she come out, and all of a sudden her body just jerked like this, and she got up and walked out the door and never had the pain again. Never. Unbelievable, unless it was believable, but it's unbelievable if you tell people that, because they're looking at it, So, one of the things that we must realize is that it's up to us to take responsibility for our healing. I love that song, How Could Anyone? But I'd like for you to get the words of it and just change it, because that's a beautiful song. How could I ever tell me that I was anything less than beautiful? Okay? So get the words and change it in that context. That is a beautiful affirmative prayer put in the present tense. Because that goes right after what unity teaches. All of them teach the same thing. It's about affirmative prayer, however you case it. Okay? So I cased it the way I learned it in that meditation. And you know, Eric Butterworth, James Dillett Freeman, and Fillmore, all the great unity people, they do it that way too, with the affirmative prayer in the middle. And so that's really the key thing there, is to work with that. And that's the job of a spiritual practitioner, is just to simply know the truth. And so there's all kinds of things that can happen. Now, you as an individual, you ever been really looking bad and people come up to you, oh man, you don't look good, and you go, oh yeah, I'm terrible, I got this and I got that, I tried this, and oh yeah, oh she go, oh yeah, I've had that too. And you get in, anybody get into those conversations? You know what I'm talking about, right? Waste of time. Yeah, I'm sick. That's all you got to do is say that. Yeah, not doing well here. Look at me. But you don't need to get into the story. Get into the affirmation. Get into what it is that's going on there. I always tell people what you do is you tell a spiritual truth even though it's a factual lie. Okay? How you doing? I'm doing fantastic. You look terrible. I'm telling you a spiritual truth, even though it's an actual lie. A physical lie, right? So you come in it to that point of view. So that's one of the key things, is never take outside as a final authority. Okay? Never take that. You never know. Because spiritually things can happen that you'd have never guessed. And that doesn't differ from the medical industry. There's a place for everything. Ernest Holmes always said it's open at the top. You do your spiritual work and you do what you need out of here, because both of them have their place. Okay? However, you work inside first, you work spiritually first, and that'll take you where you need to go and what you need to do. The other thing is I always, what I work on is I work on preventative rather than waiting for something to happen. So I take and I use, a lot of my friends got medical plans, they pay quite a bit for old people. I don't have one of those extensive ones. I use all the funds that I have for medical plans into preventative stuff. So I work with by naturopath and nutritional supplements and this philosophy and everything like that. And I'd rather do it that way than wait for something to happen and then have to heal. Right? So everybody's got their own way that they've got to do it. And you may say, well, I've got a very vast, and this is important. The most important thing of all is that each and every one of you got some wisdom that you could pass on and help somebody heal in their own way. But a lot of times people will say, well, who am I? Look at me. What can I do? Has anybody ever said that? Put yourself down because look at me. Well, I'm going to put it to you real clear. Don't ever do that, because what you know is of value, and even if it just lifts somebody up a bit, it's worth it. And don't ever worry about what you've got to do yet. When I went to become a minister and step out to do the church full time and quit my job, I went there with 4 people to start up. And I'm going to teach a healing philosophy. And the challenge I had to come through in my own mind before I made the final step was looking at the mirror at a body that was 425 pounds. And yeah, not a doubt that was that. That's what the scale tipped in, it redlined at 420. I get 5 more extra. They wanted me to go down into the shipping area and get on it. I refused. Didn't want to know how much it really was. And I'm going out to teach healing. Got it? So I have to do this for myself. And it's very overt. Obviously, you can't hide it. Lots of people can hide stuff for a while, you know. We all know that too because we've done it. So I'll spare you the detail of pointing any fingers. Okay? That I couldn't hide, so I go on the question, how can I teach people to heal when I look like this? Good question. That almost made me not do it. Then it come to me, no, Doug, you've got a lot that you've done and healed. A lot of work that's valuable to share with people. So you get to this, which is another story. You get to this and do it. But right now, get out there and start working with what you've done, and then what you need to do to finish up will come to you. And that's exactly what happened. Okay? So don't sell yourself short. Don't let people poo-poo you. Don't let anyone in your head and give them space. Because the only impact on your life is going to be what you do inside, and each and every one of us in this room has got something valuable to give. So don't hold back because of something you think of yourself as less than good. Because that's the lie. And you can deal with the lie. The truth is that what you've got to offer is good and it's valuable and it can help for those that are willing to take it. Not everybody will. Some will scorn you, scoff you. Some will turn on you. Others will take it. But your job is to do that. Because as you give, you receive. As you step out of your shell and let go of these false limitations that you think you have, and step into what you are and give of what you are, then more will come to you to help you chip off the layers of the error that one's accepted to believe. Because I know for you, as I know for myself, that we are whole, perfect, and complete at all ways, at all times, and that the divine healing presence of good in God lives in us, moves through us, and expresses by means of us in our own unique, special way, and we experience perfect circulation, assimilation, elimination in all of our bodily functions and affairs, and we go forward with that as our banner, knowing it is so, and so it is.